An ancient prophecy warns that where Hokuto appears, chaos follows. Now it was Kenshiro who bore this cruel fate. Shoulders heavy with his burden, he left Rin's village behind. Together with his newfound ally, Bat, he wandered through the endless wasteland. Who was Kenshiro? What was he fighting for? All that was known was the fearsome power of his fists. His ability to devastate the human body with precision strikes. That is, his mastery of Hokuto Shinken. Kenshiro walked ceaselessly through the barren desert. Where would the North Star lead him? In the distance, the South Star shone a brilliant blood red.
King, it's time to end this.
Hokuto Shinken? So you're still alive.
Chapter 2. A Fated Reunion.
Alright, so normally I'm going to cut out the upgrade menu because I want to keep our upgrades a surprise, but this time I'm going to show it just for posterity. We don't have any skills right now, but we will. The Meridian chart is how we level up. We spend our skill points to, well, make Kenshiro stronger, like this. To give him more health, like up here. Up here. And that unlocks the pathway to a new skill, next time we get enough points. So yeah, the chart is pretty self-explanatory in the way it works. Every time you buy a new upgrade, you unlock the abilities next to that upgrade for the next time you get enough skill points. You know, just like every other chart in an RPG. Alright, so let's look at the mission bonuses. We can see what each mission bonus gives us. Pretty nifty.
I'll say it again. Hokuto Shinken is invincible.
Hey, those are King's men! They practically own this whole area! What are we gonna do?
Please, show some heart. Those seeds are all we have. Please give them back.
Oh, well that's nice of you to tell me, game, but as you can see, I'm already working on it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I really wish I could help. I'm not ready to...
This is a really good opportunity to talk a little bit more about how smash bonuses work. Every time you get a smash bonus, your spirit meter fills up immediately, which you can use, you know, to your advantage when you're fighting a boss or a commander. Secondly, there are some objects that you can get multiple smash bonuses from, such as this bus. We can get a smash bonus from smacking it on the side, and in the front and rear. Pretty handy. And from here on out, there's almost never a shortage of things to throw enemies into. We did miss with that warhead earlier, but that's okay, because if we didn't, we might not have had such a good chance to show off smash bonuses better. As you saw just there, we can dodge at any time, even right in the middle of a combo, which was useful in this situation to get this bad guy away from the villager who almost died.
Please, you have to help. Those guys, they stole our seeds. It's all our village has.
And you want us to get him back? You must be kidding. King's not the kind of guy you want to mess with.
If we could plant those seeds, we could grow rice. We have to think of tomorrow, not just today.
So this time we're not really fighting to protect their food, we're fighting for the hope that they can have food in the future. So what we're doing right now is symbolic of saving their hope. That's all I'm saying, you know? The villagers will run ahead of you, but the enemies won't focus on them as long as you're anywhere near them. They'll try to take you out first. So protecting the villagers is actually fairly easy. They even make desperate attempts at trying to attack the bad guys by flailing at them, but they'll never actually deal any damage. You gotta hand it to him for being brave, but I probably would be hiding behind the massive wall of muscle. But that's just me. Narratively, the idea of showing the villagers trying to attack the bad guys is kind of impressive. It shows that they have a lot of courage, even when they know they're gonna die. You gotta fight for things worth protecting, like your family and not starving to death. Alright, so we can use one of these steel beams to break down the door, but first... Hey look! More skill points. This level has so many hidden skill points, it's not even funny. I'm gonna lose count way before we reach the end. Anyway, back to business. Skill points are what we use to buy upgrades in the Meridian chart, and Karma gets us skill points. Karma is the blue things that fly out of enemies when we kill them, or fly out of objects when we smash enemies into said objects. It's a good thing all these villagers are intangible, otherwise it might be kinda hard to move through them with this giant steel beam. So up here are the first instances of enemies with motorcycles. And they can be very dangerous, except for the fact that they take a brief stop as soon as they see you, before ramming you. Very small stop. As long as you react in time, you should be able to knock them off. Now, if you don't kill them when they stop, it's going to be hard to take them out, because then they'll just drive around you in circles and try to run you over, and it'll be a while before they stop again, because they're not stupid. Well, I mean, they are kind of stupid, that's part of their character, but the programming for the AI isn't stupid, is what I'm saying. Right up here is our second chance to use a warhead, and I plan to make it count this time. We're gonna wreck some shit.
Ken, I think those are the guys. They've got the seeds.
Seeds? I ate them. You got a problem with that?
You know, doing awful things to innocent people and then asking Ken, do you have a problem with that, is probably a good way to die much quicker than normal. So this is our first encounter with the commander that I'm actually going to talk about. Commanders are like mini-bosses. They have a lot of health and they have a guard meter just like bosses do. They even have special attacks. However, they're much weaker. And a single hyper signature move will kill them instantly. Now, you don't know what a hyper signature move is, unless you've managed to piece it together from what you saw in the tutorial. And we'll show it off eventually, but I wanted to show you the strategy you might take to defeat a commander without using the hyper signature move first. And the answer is you either juggle them or try quick combos that end in a heavy attack. If you combo them for too long, they're liable to break your combo, though it's easy enough to dodge out of the way. They don't tend to block as frequently as actual bosses do, so you can use that to your advantage as well. You don't need to be extra super careful around them, just more careful than with normal enemies. It's also very easy to attack when they're attacking you, like right there. They'll try to break your combo with one of their attacks, but if it's not fast enough, you can punch them before they finish it, thus interrupting their attack. This is because most of the commanders are much slower than you are. Now, some enemies will be faster, which means we can't interrupt their attacks as easily, and some enemies will be heavier, which means they won't get knocked back as easily. Oh, here's our hyper signature move. But most commanders are in the middle, where they're not too fast and not too strong, which means we're better than them in every way. So there's a pop-up that tried to tell us about this door over here. It's a big orange square on our map. When we have the appropriate signature move, we can bust that door open, but we don't get that move here. And the only two moves we have right now are the Fist of Penitence and the 100 Crack Fist. Some signature moves are learned through the story, and some of them are learned through the Meridian chart, as you saw when we looked at it before this level.
Your lives are in the palms of our hands. We choose whether you live or die.
I think you just kind of said the same thing twice there, buddy. So when we have pillar weapons, we can either throw them, or use them in a 3-hit combo. The third hit causes a massive shockwave. We can only use the 3-hit combo twice before the pillar breaks. We can see another commander right here, but this time we're not going to screw around with him, and we're just going to use the Fist of Penitence immediately. I mean, I guess we did screw around with him because we hit him with a giant pillar. But I'm sure he had that coming. Alright, there's not much else around here for us to play with except for all these fences, and every fence counts as a breakable object. So it's a quick way to refill our spirit meter. Now so far you've only seen us use our spirit meter as a method to get hyper signature attacks, but when we have our spirit meter activated, all of our attacks do more damage and are much bigger. There's also a third use for it that we haven't seen yet, but we will at the end of this level. So you can look forward to that. You might have noticed, but if we dodge out of one of our attacks, then our dodge is much faster than normal. We almost have enough karma points to get more skill points, I think after we kill this guy. Yep, there we go. We do get a large amount of skill points just from killing enemies, but we get an even larger amount by exploring our environment. By the time this level is over, we'll get 3 times as many skill points as we did from killing enemies, just by looking around.
You're a true savior!
So now our main goal is just to beat the shit out of every one of King's men and take all their food and presumably give it to the villagers afterward. Or maybe just leave it there for the villagers. Either of those works fine.
Who's the next pig who wants to be slaughtered?
So, you're the fool who thinks he has what it takes to mess with the king, huh? Give yourself up, or we kill everyone!
And there's my answer for you. Now that was kind of a rough introduction to enemies with arrows. Enemies with arrows have a really nasty habit of hitting you while you're trying to maneuver into good positions. They only hit you while you're standing still for over a whole second, but honestly that's not that long, is it? Especially when you have to stand still to punch someone. Excuse me, I did say that was our introduction to arrow enemies, but it wasn't. We saw them before in the previous stage, but they didn't attack us very well then. I should have said this is our first introduction to getting hit by them. There's a warhead over there that I really want to use. The problem is that there are so many enemies on our ass that it's hard to throw it without getting exploded. And we don't want exploded, it tends to hurt. So let's try our best to... You know, the explosion didn't hit us. I'm happy with how that went. That was still strategic. We took strategic damage there. That's what that was. I've seen a lot of people play this game without even touching the physics objects. And I just keep thinking, how could you? Did you even see that? That was some awesome shit. Fucking start using the physics objects in action games, you guys. You have absolutely no idea what you're missing out on. Well, maybe now you do, because you just saw it. Seems like I completely forgot about these guys over here. But that's okay, because I'm pretty sure these 2 particular villagers are invincible. Even if their health is all the way down, they won't die. Alright, so the way forward is obviously where the green arrow is pointing. But I forgot a skill point back a few rooms ago, so I'm gonna go get that before we progress. Alright, we're back, and here's another warhead. This one we left alone, but for a good reason. There are a group of enemies up here that really savvy the idea of long-range combat. So we're going to indulge them in that. They're even in the corner for us, so this makes it much easier. And they're gone. Something important to note is that the shape of an object you throw determines how well it's thrown. For example, you can throw missiles almost 100% accurately. But if you try to throw something like a barrel, it's not going to go as far, or hit where you want it to most of the time. So just make sure you adjust your aim accordingly, is all I'm saying. Huh, I could have sworn there was a box over there.
Just through there is King's Town of Southern Cross.
Southern Cross? That's the name of it?
Yeah? So? What's the big deal?
So there's a few warheads lying around, and you may think there's nothing to use them on, but you would be wrong about that. There's this one guy up here. And now he's not there anymore. There's also another box hidden behind this wall. And it gives us even more skill points. What are we up to now? At least 10 skill points from boxes alone? As I said, this game does include some minor platforming, and there is more platforming as the game goes on, but this is our first real instance of it. Infiltration successful. I've never felt so stealthy in my life. There are a lot of physics objects in this room, but there's no one to use them on, which is a shame. We're still gonna hit him anyway, though. So unfortunately, it also looks like our main way through is also blocked off, but I'm sure we can find a way around, and if not, we'll punch our way around. We're now officially in King's Village, which is a separate part of the stage entirely, which is way differently laid out, and we can no longer get back to the first part of the level. I'm not particularly sure what these two innocent villagers were doing in here, but maybe they brought the villagers in here to fuck with them.
The man with 7 scars is here somewhere. Anyone looks suspicious, slaughter him on the spot. Now we'll have some.
Man, that's really impressive that somehow you guys managed to see my scars through my shirt. This room makes up for the last one by giving us plenty of physics objects and people to hit them with. So of course we're going to do that as much as possible. Because why wouldn't we? Pretty much every single thing in this area is a physics object. Even those little concrete barriers. So, the pre-level narration told us that we didn't know what motivated Ken, but if you listen to the things he says to his enemies, it's clear that he's angry at their abuse of the innocent. And so he's killing them. So Kenshiro is basically the Punisher, but with fists instead of guns, which is objectively better. Because guns don't make meaty thud noises when you hit people with them. I mean, maybe if the gun is really, really big, and instead of shooting it, you're actually physically hitting someone with it, maybe that would be an exception. I can only assume the reason that these street lamps are still here, because they're clearly not in function anymore. They clearly don't work. Maybe they're for decoration, or King was just too lazy to take them down. Listen to me talking like he actually comes down here. Do you think he even bothers?
Looks like a dead end. I mean, unless we had some way of knocking down this wall.
You know, even if we couldn't knock it down with our fists, I'm sure we could go back and find a warhead or two just lying around. So this isn't the way forward. But there is yet more skill points in here. There's something of a very tiny maze in these broken walls. Well, these breakable walls, rather. And if you break the right ones, you can walk away with 30 plus skill points out of it. I was hoping to taunt the enemy so that way they would walk in front of the wall before I punched it, but another warhead works just as well. Yeah, that was pretty good. So you may have noticed that the tunnels we made through the broken walls are not on the map, and this means that any secret areas in future levels won't be on the map either. And when we get up here to this fence, we can see there's yet another broken wall beyond it. So after we get to the other side of this wall, we're going to want to loop back around to that one, so we can see what's hiding. I bet it's some more skill points. You shouldn't think I'm complaining about that, though. The more fancy stuff we can upgrade ourselves with, the better. Because that means more punching and bigger blood explosions. Now we're going to bust through here, but before we go to that wall on the other side of the fence, we're going to want to look around to the other way, and we'll see that there's a crate with yet more skill points in it. Yep. Man, we're going to be so souped up after this. We're actually very near the end of the level at this point, though there is still the boss fight after it. And that boss is a bit more difficult than the one we encountered previously, because Zed was kind of an easy mode boss. Alright, so here's that breakable wall we saw on the other side of the fence earlier. And there is a crate in here, in the corner, but it's dark so I couldn't see it. There it is. 15 skill points. Now that's a lot. And after we run back through, we can see a couple of extra things we could have used to fight those enemies, like an explosive barrel, and some more physics objects over there. But the enemies were in such a small number that we didn't really need either of these. Now up here are our last breakable walls, and we want to go through the one on the right first. And then the room starts to rumble, so we want to get the fuck away, because if we don't, that will come crashing on us. Another whole 15 skill points. And now we just have a couple of small roadways left, and then the boss. Not many enemies in this area either, which is depressing because, again, there are so many physics objects here. Oh well. Believe me, the game's gonna make up for it big time before this level's over. These sandbags aren't really performing the function they were intended to. They might want to think about taking these down. There's a split in the path up here, which means, of course, more skill points hidden in crates. Right over here. Man, I'm not even gonna know what to spend all these on. That was perfect. That was like a 90-degree turn. You think you're gonna go flying into the air? No, Kenshiro's just gonna turn 90 degrees mid-kick and smash you into a wall. Up here's another sizable group of enemies and another commander, but we have our spirit gauge, so the commander is no issue. So fun fact, the Fist of Penitence is meant to go in your head, but some of these enemies are so large that Kenshiro can only reach their chest. It's kind of funny. And of course we lost our spirit gauge, so we need to get that back ASAP, so just let me... There we go, it's back. Back to business as usual. And of course there's another split in the road, which means even more skill points, just hiding in a crate. We can also see the main pathway that's been entirely blocked up from us from here. But that doesn't matter because there were more skill points this direction.
The gate's been breached! Quick, somebody let Mr. Hart know!
So, you're the man who uses Hokuto Shinken. Only King can defeat me. My body can only be harmed by Nanto Seiken.
Nanto Seiken?
This body has crushed martial artists from every known school.
So Hart himself isn't that bad once you learn how to deal with him, but he does have a lot of groupies, some of which have arrows. And we really want to get rid of them first, because they can be a huge pain during this fight. There's also at least 4 explosive barrels lying around that we can hurl at Hart to deal extreme damage to him, but I wouldn't recommend giving that a try until we're done clearing the place. Or until we're absolutely sure there's no one around. Thankfully, this place has the largest abundance of physics objects we've seen in the game so far, and there's a ton of enemies lying around to boot. We can even damage Hart a tiny bit with some of the physics objects, or at least break his guard. You don't really need to worry about Hart catching you while you're trying to take out his buddies, because he doesn't move that fast. It's very easy to get around him. Man, there are so many enemies here. I think we're even almost out of physics objects. I wonder if we can make it. The ultimate battle, physics objects versus army. Now you might think to yourself, man, does hitting enemies with physics objects ever get old? No, it doesn't. Beat-em-ups and physics objects are both supremely satisfying, so when you combine them, of course I'm gonna use the hell out of them. Sorry about that, Hart, but really, you're in the way, man. Let's see if I can actually hit him with this one. Success! If you manage to use the explosive barrels appropriately, then you can deal damage to Hart without ever having to punch him. Want to get rid of this last guy. Alright, now it's just... Oh, wait, there's one more. Hold on. Alright, now it's just you and me, buddy. Let's do this. That could not possibly have gone any better. So the thing with large enemies, or as the game calls them, corpulent enemies, is that their fat acts as a huge shield. so singular strong attacks aren't that good, but consecutive attacks are. Also, Heart's belly makes like a jelly noise when you smack it. After their guard is down, anything goes, but it's depleting their guard that's important. Now, Heart has 4 notable attacks. He has those flaming slaps of his, which hurt a lot. He has 2 regular slaps. He has a grab, and he has a small combo that is much faster than his others, which he can use to briefly stun us.
Blood! Blood! Ow! It hurts!
Now, when he enters his second phase, I believe he has an attack exclusive to it where he can breathe fire. He doesn't use that one very much, though. Now, Heart definitely isn't one of the most popular characters in Fist of the North Star, but he is popular enough that games have referenced him in the past. There is an enemy in Streets of Rage called Heart, which is very large and can also breathe fire. And I even believe he wears suspenders. So that's kinda cute. If this boss fight seemed too easy for you, well, it is easy for me, but that's because I learned to dodge very quickly after encountering Heart. If you don't learn that you can cancel any of your combos with the dodge, he might actually be difficult, even though he doesn't deal very much damage. And who said this was the tough boss fight I mentioned earlier? After all, we still have to fight this King fellow. I want to say ahead of time, because I won't get much chance to talk about it, the attack that we learned from beating Heart is one of my favorites because of the name and what it's used for. But you'll see for yourself in just a moment.
Southern Cross. Nanto Seiken. It has to be him.
What? You know him? You know King?
His name is Shin. He's the man who gave me the 7 scars on my chest.
Kenshiro, we meet again.
I crawled out of hell just so I could find you again.
You want me to kill you that badly?
Where's Yuria? Yuria!
I thought I'd treat you to your former fiancé being killed in front of your very eyes.
Yuria! It's me, Kenshiro! Yuria!
I'm afraid she's forgotten all about you.
It doesn't matter. As long as she's alive.
Kenshiro, it's time for you to return to the hell you came from.
Welcome to the fight with Shin, which is our first big boss battle. And one of the largest reasons I don't think this game should be associated with Dynasty Warriors. Anyway, Shin is faster than us, so for the first time, blocking is actually important. And the game helpfully tells us when we can counterattack by putting a giant L1 button in the way. Right after we block that big attack of his, we can hit him back. Now, there are other times we can hit him, but that's the safest time, is right after that attack of his. He also can't block these pillars that are lying around, so we should use those to our advantage when we can. Unfortunately, they don't last very long against him. Oh well. We got some good hits in there. We want to choose very carefully when to strike, because as I said, he is faster than we are. So we can't just interrupt all of his attacks with ours like we would the other enemies.
You'll never be able to match me. Not in this fight.
In Shin's second phase, he will most often use a single piercing slash. And the idea is to get him caught in the pillars, because otherwise he's never vulnerable. At least not often. Now, the game wants us to do this by dodging out of the way in time, but it's much easier just to walk around the pillar when he starts using the attack. And yes, as you saw, we can actually grab Shin, but that's very difficult. This may be the easiest of Shin's forms, but it is just supposed to teach you how to dodge, in case you haven't learned how to do that yet. Though you don't actually really need to dodge to get through this. He's also way more vulnerable in general in this stage than he is in the other two. Sorry, in this phase.
If you want true strength.
So just like Shin has a spirit gauge, and when he unleashes it, he can make these huge fucking shockwaves. They cannot be blocked, and they're actually very difficult to dodge. If we get hit with them, we get this yellow glow around us. And that yellow glow means that when Shin snaps his fingers, our organs explode.
You are already dead.
I will not be killed by the likes of you!
In addition to the massive shockwaves Shin can now make in his spirit form, he can also use a ton of new moves outside of it. Your best bet is to juggle him as soon as he breaks out of his spirit mode, because that's when he's most vulnerable. Now you can hit him while he's in his spirit mode if you activate your own spirit mode, but that's really the only time it's safe. He has a second attack that he only tends to use in spirit mode, where he unleashes a huge kick that can juggle you into the air. It lasts quite a while, but that one can thankfully be blocked. Now, something else that may be hard to notice, but is something unique to Shin, is that he's capable of snapping his fingers and causing you to explode while you're in mid-combo, which means that can happen, and you can break your combo at literally any time. There's a lot of nuances to the fight for how short it is. The only really safe thing, as I said, when he's in spirit mode is to activate your own spirit mode, otherwise you just gotta go on the defense. We've been in control of the flow of the battle most of this time, but it's easy for the tides to turn. When in spirit mode, if Shin starts to hit you with that flying kick attack and he doesn't miss, you're gonna be vulnerable for a bit. In addition, Shin won't stop spamming those shockwaves just because you get hit with one. He'll keep using them, which makes it hard for you to compose yourself after you've already taken a hit. Especially considering he can explode you. Like that. Leaves very little time for you to react.
That's all you've got! You've changed. You're not the man you once were.
Yuria. What if... a doll? What have you done, Shin?
She's gone. Yuria's gone forever. This whole town, it all belongs to you. So, how do you feel about me now?
My heart will never change. And until it does, you will never stop doing this. Ken, I can't keep my promise to you any longer.
This town, all the wealth, fame, and power I had, it was all worthless. I only ever wanted one thing. Yuria! It seems my time is up. But know this. You will not be the one to kill me. I will. Goodbye, Kenshiro!
But why? Why would you dig a grave for a man like that?
Because he and I love the same woman.